Yeah. Hello, welcome to my talk. I really thank the previous talk to fill the room, so it's nice. I will be speaking about the relationship between upstream and downstream, and in case of Debian, also the down parts of having a very good packaging team. So. Myself, I'm Steve SCHNEPP. I'm working as upstream of Munin, and well, that's mostly it. So the talk is really dedicated to all the packaging teams that are truly awesome. I mean, really, I mean it. Notice the plural. Yeah, I know we are mostly have Debians, but many distro are, and well, that's quite great. So the agenda will begin by a little survey. We'll speak about separation of powers between upstream and downstreams. We also speak about the very usual case when upstream is downstream. And we'll have very specific Munin solutions to this issue. And yeah, compared to the other talk, I won't have any command lines. So no color either, so should be readable. Actually, you notice the layout. It's my design. So if you think that Munin is quite not very fancy, that's why. My fault. So a survey. Who is Debian developer here? Oh, nice. So some aren't. Who is upstream? Oh, interesting. Who is both? Who is both for the same package? Who wants to be both? Don't. You'll see why. But, well, it's not really, it's only guidelines, but, well. Okay, so separation of powers. I mean, you know that every democracy has these pillars of every power should be separated, because usually always seeks his own agenda. And if you're alone, it's very interesting to seek our own agenda. You see, if you're a dictator, I mean, you can go very fast somewhere. If you're a democracy, you have to agree with others, and that usually takes long. But the ways thing is, dictatorship is very efficient, but unless you are the dictator, you can go wherever you want, but it doesn't usually follow the path of everyone. So I will speak about upstream. That's me writing software. I mean, in the Munin example that I will take. What really interests me is only supporting a single version. I mean, I don't care about others, only what's on Git, master, and the rest I don't care. That's my ideal world. Also, I always install to a single code path. You have different environments. I don't care, it's not my problem. On my box it works. I want to realize it every often. I mean, ideally, I had just hack a feature, I mean, and I want to show it right away, and for everyone to consume. It's very natural for when you're upstream, because I mean you don't want to spend time working on features and having them in 2 or 3 years when the next release is here. So, what I don't really like is interacting with users. I mean, not massively. I mean, when you have a handful of them, it's really great. But when you have like thousands of them, I mean, it's getting very interesting, because your mailbox gets filled, your bug tracker is full. You cannot. I mean, but the user, it's quite nice, because they force us to. They have real needs. So if you're completely disconnected to your user, the software doesn't work, as we saw in the late night stand-up. And what I really like about downstream is it's they all handle the storms. I just write code in some isolated way, and they just bring the survey of the fields, they know the users, and they say, okay, this is important, this is not so important, and this is great, this is not so great, or are you sure this is great? And that's very, very, very interesting. So now speaking about downstream, that's you, the one who raised the hand. What is of interest about it? It enables the broadcasting of software, because when you write something, usually in the free software, you want that everyone uses it. I mean, it's natural. And when you're alone, as upstream, I mean, to have a very broad coverage, and it's quite difficult. I mean, I know that these days every project begins with curl blah 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 github.com pipe sudo sh and blah blah, it's installed. I mean, it's not very interesting to install that way. So for this part we have distros, and they're really good at that one. So to send the software to the users everywhere, it's a nice place. They also are very kind in supporting most all versions. I mean, if Debian, for example, supports a very old version of Munin that, well, I didn't. I mean, I don't offer many bug fixes, and there are still some bug fixes on that, and it's quite great. And the other thing is, every distribution has its own version. That's a little bit interesting also, because every distribution has its own paste. That's normal, and they freeze the code at one version of upstream, and they integrate it in their distribution. So I'm not speaking about a rolling release distribution, but more fixed set like Debian or CentOS or Red Hat. And also, distribution, you have, I mean, if you look at the distribution survey, I mean, you have so many distributions to choose from, because there are so many different situations that users are into. And they offer a centralized package for doing, I mean, very specific stuff that upstream cannot do. I mean, I don't have the manpower to address every single problem. I mean, specifically when it's very, very tiny and specific to one platform or one configuration or whatever. For example, Munin doesn't even have a support for starting. So initd or systemd or whatever is completely handled by the distribution. I mean, for upstream, it's just install something at boot and blah blah. So it's quite easy for me. But well, when the real stuff is done by distribution team. And distribution are very nice in that they have many users already. So I mean, they have the tools to deal with that overwhelming amount of users. And alternately, when you have big users, you have also a big number of bugs. So when actually the BTS kind of thing is quite awesome. I really like to work with that, and especially when like packagers, just do a summary of what's important, what's not, and they do bug triaging. That's really awesome. All right. So I'll speak about on very special project. Who has one person's project right now working on? Yeah, okay. Then mostly everyone. And thing is, who is packaging it for this single person project is packaging it for Debian right now? Yeah, same persons. And thing is, it's really great, because when you're in a position of doing that, your project has automatically a broad visibility, as I said before, with broadcasting software. And the release, I mean, you're your own judge, so your own dictator, as I said. So it goes quite well. If it doesn't, well, I mean, you're to be blamed, and it's like that. So it's good because there is no overhead. It's ideal for small projects. I mean, the one person's project is very typical example, and it's quite great also to yeah, well, see, it's quite great also to attract people, because if you can show something, people will come. And I mean, vaporware is nice, but it only lasts for a while. I mean, after people get distracted, they go somewhere else and do somewhere else more interesting. And the most difficult part is to attract a packager. When you're a stream, the most difficult part for a new project is to attract a packager. So you're in a great position of being both. That's quite interesting for you, and that's great. But it has this also issue. Usually when you do that, you don't distribute toolbars anymore. I mean, usually it's when we'll see that in Debian it's a little bit different, but on other distro, they don't distribute tarbars anymore. It's only in RPM and basta, or the Git tag. And usually, when it's one person project, it's only one distro that is handled. I mean, here I suppose that you don't package it for Red Hat, and so it assumes a lot. For example, usually it assumes that the files or the config files or the installation part is somewhere, and there is always something installed, and therefore you have less portability and also less documentation, since you don't need to explain people how to install it, except apt-get install my software. I mean, that's the greatest part, but the baddest part is since it's so easy, you don't need to document it, and usually people don't do it when they're not forced to do documentation. That's bad, but that's human. And it does not scale. The thing is, when you're alone, you're alone. I mean, it's like when it's like software. When you have an algorithm that does this, you can optimize the algorithm, but you can go much faster in putting 100 machines, and it will go mostly automatically 100 times faster. Yeah, it's not true, but you get the point. And so to attract new people, it's quite difficult, and especially when it's one person project that has, as I said, no documentation and no tarball or whatever. Yep. So I'll speak about our solutions to these. It's we still have tarballs. Actually, it's because of Debian requires it. I don't care about tarballs anymore because no one installs it from the tarball nowadays anymore. I mean, in the era of Vagrant that we saw, I mean, everyone has its own preferred way of distributing software, but well, that's a plea, and well, it's okay. Yeah, versioning. I mean, we really try to have every distro sync on one version. It didn't happen yet. It's quite difficult to make it happen, but it's nice because we started with LTS versions like Debian did, because and then the distro can rely on having all of the same versions, and at the end we really avoid version in depth because that's what kills packaging. I mean, it pulls hairs out of our loving packages. So we also have we also write more documentation, and what one we use Sphinx. Who knows Sphinx? It's basically something based restructure text based. It's something for like Markdown, but and the good thing is generates like a book. I mean, you can read it from the beginning to the end with index. And because the wiki is nice, but you always get lost in that. I mean, you have so many information, you just don't know how to search it. Portability, that's still an issue because we only have homogeneous hardware, and we try to have a demo cloud and a demo version in many hardwares. But well, and yeah, okay. That's the end part. Is so. Thanks DebConf for letting me present this talk, and yeah, I will not say everything. You can read. Are there some blind people here? No. Okay. And all the people in the Munin ecosystem, and really I thank packagers because you're doing a really great job. You even have 2 slides. And well, that's mostly it. Questions? Yeah, no command line, no questions. I agree. No? Oh. Okay. So thanks. You can have lunch early.